right, so I love a good crossover, and this conversation with Everett Osbourne has exactly that. So Everett started out playing basketball, but he also was in theater some, but he made it to the highest level of sports, a pro athlete. Then as the pandemic hit, all kinds of things shifted and he hit a quick pivot. But this is the thing that I love. Everett Osbourne will now be the lead role in a major motion picture, releasing only in theaters on April 14th. That's what you call a real pivot. He is the epitome of the intersection, the crossover, entertainment, sports, everything we love here on Montgomery Co. And I'm going to have a conversation with him all about it. What was it like on set? What was everything like? We're going to talk about it. Let's go. All right, so we're here with Everett Osbourne, the lead, okay? I like to say that when we talk to folks, the lead playing Sweetwater Clifton. Now, I'm a hooper, so you guys should know that this is like, do you know you're part of basketball history, royalty making this film? Do you know what film you just made?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I mean, to play the lead role of a player that honestly I didn't know anything about, and I think some fans and even athletes don't know who the first African American was to sign an NBA contract and break the barrier and change the way the game was played forever. So it's a huge honor, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Definitely, and you talked about it, the first Black player to land an NBA contract. We know Earl Lloyd was the first player to actually play in the NBA. Now, I got to watch Sweetwater a little bit early before it hits theaters, which is like one of my favorite things to do because I like to think of myself as like a movie and TV critic in my mind. So I'm curious, like I know that do you watch sports? Did you play sports before this? Like, were you affiliated with sports at all before you took this role?
Absolutely. I mean, actually, I played professional basketball in Australia.
Yeah, come on, Everett. I knew. I'm like, ain't that much teaching in the world. You know, you can tell the real hoopers in the films when you see them, right? Like, so I felt like that you had that. So basically, when I played at UConn, I played all over the world and I played in different sports, and I saw that sports connects people. Like, like I played overseas and they still love the game. They're still in the game. So as you like played this part, like, did you ever stop to think about like how sports intersects everything, culture, race, all of that? Like, sports is the one thing that everybody can relate to.
Absolutely. I mean, I had to, right? Especially being an athlete and playing in LA, the US, played Division I, traveled across the globe, right? And then going to Australia, New Zealand. So seeing it from that perspective, right? But then from the storyteller perspective, understanding the facts of the history, seeing how multiple cultures played a role into this historical event that happened. And then just thinking like, wow, people are going to be affected by this. Like, we love sports because fans from everywhere can go sit in an arena, right? And they get emotion, they get inspired by what they're watching. And I read something that one athlete can inspire a nation. You see what I'm saying? So the fact that we all get to kind of come together as human beings and even experience this on the other end in the theater, right? It kind of brings that both sides together, just everybody coming in one spot, just being moved by sport. That's why I love the game so much. That's why I love sports so much. It's just a beautiful thing.
I love that one athlete can inspire a nation. And that literally makes me think about the idea of three-pointers was brought up in this film. Of the three-point shot in the game of basketball was a development that wasn't always there. It obviously came as a part of the game. And we've seen the shots that Steph Curry, look where Steph Curry has taken the three-pointer. Like, you a hooper, so I'm going to talk to you now. Like, now I know you a hooper. I'm going to talk to you like hooper to hooper. Yeah. Look at what Steph Curry has done to the game in a sense of he has become an expert at shooting three-pointers. And it made me think of a scene in the movie where basically the Harlem Globetrotters were shooting trick shots, but they were basically deep shots that ended up being three-pointers.
Yeah, I mean, exactly right. I mean, I'm drawn to a part in the film, not to give any spoilers or anything, but we kind of allude to just because you haven't seen it before doesn't mean it's illegal. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a helm of humanity, right? Like, us human beings, the beautiful thing that we have is we can create, right? We can imagine, we can, break the barrier and do things that we didn't do yesterday, right? There's a new day every day for a reason. So that is what breaking the barriers is. That is what changing the mode, changing the game, taking it to another level is, showing that creativity and just pushing yourself to another level. And that's what Sweetwater did, right? I mean, he brought a new style to the game, but he didn't just like play with his own swagger. Just seeing someone else be free inspires the next person. So he inspired other players that weren't just Black, players, right? So now, like you talked about, people across the globe being affected. Now we got guys in Europe playing with style and flair, and you just see how one person, like I said before, can really change and inspire a nation. And
It's
just to start back
crazy.
from the beginning, it's just an honor that I get to just kind of handshake this guy in, and we get to just show reverence to a true trailblazer that's blessed this game in this country.
That is like I couldn't have said it better. And it makes me think of Simone Biles where she created new techniques when it came to gymnastics. They didn't even know how to judge her because it was so new. But to your point, just because you haven't seen it before doesn't make it illegal or less than. I know that. So I love that you're a hooper because it just changed my whole like
Yeah, you
this
know
is
what I'm
so it
saying?
changed my whole mindset on how to talk to you because I played in Australia too. I played for the Canberra Capitals, by the way. So I
Wow.
played overseas, like I talked about, and I played at home as well. You went from hooping at a high level, and I know that now you're acting at a high level. You've acted in Sisters, you've acted in other things as well. And so I'm just curious, like when you got this role, like what was your like what was your mindset? Because athletes are almost used to winning, but when it comes to entertainment and acting, it's like it's a numbers game. Like it ain't the same as sports. I know you know what I'm saying. It's not the same.
It's not. It's not, Renee. Like, to be honest with you, I mean, I've been acting since the age of 4. I started in the theater. So I
For
started acting and playing
real.
ball, yeah, with my family in the church and plays, and then I studied psychology. I mean, so I've always been on stage and doing things of that nature, right? But I just love the game of basketball. But when I was in Australia, COVID hit, and I was forced to come home. So I had to give up something I loved, and I didn't have an agent or anything. I was an underdog, so I was just trying to find my way back over there and couldn't do it. And I had to really surrender my own goals, my own dreams, and really tap into, what's God's will right now? Like, what is around me? What can I, do with the time I have, even though I hit rejection, right? What can I still grab from this moment? And then in there, I found again the true passion I've had from day one of performing, of plays, of acting, of connecting to humanity. So that was a tough turning point for me. I was just really at home and had to stick into that. So when I did get this role, I wasn't an athlete that received it. I mean, you always an athlete, right? We always
Yeah.
want to be a hooper, but my spirit and my heart was kind of softened because I almost became something different. I had to change the whole identity of what I was so used to my whole life and welcome a whole new world. And it came at the right time. And lo and behold, basketball came back in this way.
Crazy.
It's beautiful.
like that could have been the perfect role for someone like you. You're at that crossroads. You're already, like you said, you started performing and playing at the same time. So you are both of those, like your character is all of you in one, like the exceptional hooper. You had the height, you had all of those things. And I'm curious because Will Smith talked about acting in Emancipation, and he had to get in the mind frame of a different time, like, that society is like Emancipation was at a different time than what our society is today. Sweetwater is definitely not the slavery era like Emancipation, but it's definitely a different time frame of where players were refused service at hotels, restaurants. We all know the stories, gas stations. So how do you prepare for a role like that to get your mind in a frame that we don't live in today? And then did you find yourself like looking at folks differently after, acting in roles? I'm just saying, because once I watch movies, I'll be like, what is that like?
I mean, just as the actor, right? The golden role is anybody, right? As an artist, to tell the truth. So for me to do that, it starts with stillness. I have to get still. I have to find a quiet space to where I can absorb a new world and not bring over Everett's tendencies, not bring over Everett's knowledge of basketball or my experiences. That is my job, right? So that was the most beautiful part for me. And then once I got to that space, I mean, you got to think this is post the Harlem Renaissance. This is post the Great Depression, right? So Sweetwater came in during an important time of his life. And also, this man he fought in war, right? World War II. He fought in war. He served our country. So this is a man that fought for human rights across the board and justice and freedom. So to step into that world, of course, you're going to see things differently. And when you fight in war and you're fighting for someone that is white, right? You don't care about color anymore. This is your brother. You're fighting for something bigger than yourself. So I think Sweetwater carried that over into the basketball court. So when they came back, I mean, it's like he didn't feel inferior. And basketball was that equalizer, right? We both can compete and show our worth. I mean, post the Great Depression, all Americans and people were just trying to figure out, what value do I bring to this country? What value do I bring as a human being? And I think as you watched it, right, everybody found the value of just playing and showing that they can be great in something. And that's the beautiful part about this. It wasn't about money during that time. It was just about human value and fighting for the justice for everybody.
Definitely. Yeah. It wasn't about money, because they said that Sweetwater's first contract netted him $2,500. So, it definitely wasn't about money at that time. But they also had an interview from a player, West Virginia State alumni. So I'm from West Virginia. So I was like, what? Earl Lloyd. We know all about Earl Lloyd. He was the player that ended up, and these are not spoiler alerts, people. I want you to know that these are just things that we knew, as I'm from West Virginia. So we know Earl Lloyd was the first player to play in an NBA game. But when I tell you how shocked I was when I saw Milwaukee Bucks' very own Bobby Portis acting as Earl Lloyd, I'm like, what? So they got hoopers. I didn't even know you was a hooper at that time. So they got real hoopers for the roles. What was it like on set?
I mean, to be honest, we had real hoopers for the roles. I had no stunt man. I mean, every dunk, every dribble, every shot made, there was no edits. It was all real me. Anything you see Bobby do as him. I mean, it was really authentic. This is a true story. Right, and Martine Gigi, the director and the writer, did an amazing job of just wanting to capture just the true essence of what was going on during that time. So when I'm dunking in these Chuck Taylors, right, I'm wearing Chucks,
right,
I'm dunking, doing crossovers in Chucks. I mean, you have to understand how real this really is, and it feels real, and it just brings a real environment. I mean, it got to the point we were really playing pickup. I mean, we had plays set up already, but when you see me go between the legs, layup, that was just through the pickup of just competing. When you see,
so you was really out there giving them buckets, is what you was saying. You was really out there dishing out some buckets.
I mean, like I go back to before, the golden rules to tell the truth.
Let's go.
It is, right? I mean, I saw an amazing spread that you guys did with Gina Prince Bythewood, and she was talking about how for Woman King, she had them really trained because she wanted to build that essence, and that's essentially what was happening, just organically, just off the great director. I mean, so that was beautiful from a basketball player to see that was really there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then from the acting side, I mean, we were surrounded with great people as well that wasn't just in basketball. Like, we got an all-star cast, people that won Oscars, right? We got Richard Dreyfuss, people, other Oscar nominated, Kevin Pollak, Carrie Elwes, Jeremy Piven. You know what I'm saying? So we have a lot of great people that were even on the other side of the basketball, right? The political side, the coaches, the GMs, to just push the story forward and really bring the truth to its apex. So it was a lot of magic that happened. Honestly, it was fun.
It was. I mean, like I told y'all, I watched it. I enjoyed it. I love stuff like that. I did an Ora Washington podcast because almost the same as you, where I didn't know enough information about Ora Washington, and I'm in the women's basketball space, so I found that to be wild. So I definitely wanted to tell the story about Ora Washington and what she's done. But you said something about magic. They called the Harlem Globetrotters, they said basketball magicians, and basketball right now, we talk about March Madness, and there's something magical about it. Did you ever experience March Madness? Did you what's this face? Talk to me. Help me.
Yeah, I mean, because you're bringing us so many different things. So on the court, we experience real magic. I mean, there's moments where I hit half-court shots in one take that I ain't practiced. There's moments I hit hook shots.
So wait, them trick shots, y'all was really having to make the trick shots?
That's real.
Wow.
That's real. That's wow. And it wasn't let's pick up off of just a shot made. No, this is the real shot. This is the full-in shot. The fadeaway, out of bounds. These are real shots that's being made, right?
That's crazy.
There was and then you have the environment, the energy that it just felt like a lot of magic. You felt a certain spirit that this is a moment in time, right? It's like when you're playing in a game, this is a serious moment, but you're so present and locked in that you're detached from it. But you're still in that moment, and you're allowing the present moment to bring new things. So I didn't make it to the tournament. I didn't win a chip like you. You know what I'm saying? Salute.
Nah, listen, no. I'm just...
Yeah, I've competed in the WAC. I played in the WAC conference, so I've made all the way to Vegas, where we have the WAC tournament, stuff like that. And just preparing as a D1 athlete, I mean, I've experienced that height of competitive.
Definitely. No, I mean, that's basically what I was getting at, because anybody that's played at a high level, knows what it's like to prepare, knows what it's like to be in that moment. I love how you said you can be present and still detached from the moment. That's lit, because I know exactly what you mean by that. So what's next for you, Everett? I mean, do you have an agent yet? Like, I mean, you just out here thugging it out, getting lead roles in a motion picture. Like what? Like what's
Yeah.
going on, Everett?
Well, I'm doing what I love. Like I'm acting. I'm an actor, and just the blessing that I have to usher in this amazing story. Right, this is the first time you guys are gonna ever see me lead a role, lead a film. It's just an honor for me, and just sitting in this moment, staying present. Kind of what we just talked about.
Yeah.
'Cause that's where the blessings come. Right, you got to, in order to be grateful. How can you be grateful if you're not in that moment and seeing what to be grateful for? So really just being happy and proud of what we've all created in this moment, and then understanding that, there's always byproducts of that. So I'm looking forward to the future. I'm looking forward to telling more beautiful stories. There's a lot of stories in me that I'm looking to tell and absorb and step into. But as of right now, it's a lot to celebrate. Basketball, like you mentioned, is at a great
Definitely.
time. We got March Madness, right? We got the playoffs coming up, and the fact that
Who's your team? Who you got for the NBA? Because the NBA playoffs, I mean, we saw with March Madness that number one seeds were dropping. Anything can happen. It's always going to be exciting with the Cinderellas. But then you got the NBA playoffs too, that we don't know what's going on. You see teams trying to surge and
yeah.
all these, like, what? So what's your team? What you got for the NBA? What's going on?
To be honest,
Who Sweetwater got to win the? Who does Sweetwater have to win the NBA playoff championships?
that's a tough one, right? I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles, California. So, I mean, I saw Kobe and Shaq go for the three-peat. I saw it all up close. So I love purple and gold. But, I mean, my love right now extends beyond just a certain team because, rest in peace, Kobe isn't here. So, honestly, it's hard for me to just attach myself to a team. But I love what you're talking about as far as seeing these underdogs and these people that wasn't planned on being in these positions winning. You don't know what's going to happen. And that's the beautiful thing about basketball, right? That's what makes it fun, not knowing what's going to happen and being able to compete. And that's what it talks about in the story, too, like the Harlem Globetrotters transition to the NBA. Like the biggest thing was to fight and play equally. So
Yeah.
the games weren't, staged. So we can have an opportunity to show, hey, I could beat these top players. You know what I'm saying? Like the New York Knicks beat the Lakers. That was a world champs during a certain time. So the Harlem Globetrotters, beat the Lakers. That was a world champ. So, I mean, that just shows you the nature of this game, how anything can happen. So, to answer your question, I don't know, but I'm going to be there front and center, though. So watch.
Okay. And then I'm just curious because we talk about a lot of different things here and we talk about like money and business. And so what was it like when you started getting them first lead role checks? Now, come on, listen. Listen, because it sounds good all the time, but when I'm going overseas, I want to know, where the money resides. So what's that leading man check looking like? How you feeling? What'd you get?
I feel great. I'm a humble guy. I'm from LA. I'm home. I got my grandma here, my granddad, my sister, my mom.
Love it.
So there's nothing that I really need to do outside of myself to spend anything going. Everything is really just reinvesting back into the craft. Making sure I'm staying tuned up, making sure I'm staying sharp on everything I need to do as the artist, as the human being. Peace of mind. I did take a little trip to New York. Went to Harlem. I went to certain jazz spots just to kind of connect with the city a little bit. So I kept it real simple, but we're in a great place.
I love that. Okay, so you went to Harlem, which I have to mention that's one of my favorite shows. It's on Amazon Prime. If you guys haven't seen that show, I just love it because I like seeing Black-led shows that do well, and that's what that show is, and that's what this movie is. Now, before I let you go real quick, I got to get your March Madness picks. All right. So I know, come on. I want to hear from Everett. I want to hear from Sweetwater. I thought you were going to say the Knicks since Sweetwater played for the Knickerbockers at the time,
Right.
in the 1950s, he was playing for the Knickerbockers, and we see the Knicks have just really brought it on with Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle's playing well. Josh Hart got the new signing. But let's move on to March Madness and see. And just a disclaimer, y'all, he's making these picks well earlier than you're hearing this. So, somebody could have already been eliminated, but I'm just curious, what schools, who you looking at to cut down the nets? We already saw some number ones drop.
To be honest, you have to give me who's in it because I've been away from everything. I've been locked in.
I like that though.
I haven't been able to really watch the TV. So you got to give me some picks and I could just start throwing them out.
All right. So on the women's side, it's a lot of people are saying South Carolina's leading the race. That's the Gamecocks with Don Staley. I'm a
Mm.
Yukon Husky, as you know, so I'm gonna be over here howling to the moon, bleeding blue, of course. But then, there's Ole Miss and there's some underdogs that have knocked off some top seeds. That's on the women's side. But like, I look, I like honesty. Like, like what'd you say? Tell the truth. That's the number one thing, is tell the truth. You've been locked in on your craft and you don't know what's going on. That's a beautiful truth. That should make people on the 14th of April want to go see it even more. The movie's called Sweetwater, because this man, while all of us have been submerged in March Madness and submerged in what's going on in the sports world and the business world and all the things we cover here on Montgomery Co, Everett Osbourne has been focused on Sweetwater, Clifton, which the movie comes out April 14th. Any last thing you want to say about the movie, the experience? I've already seen it, but we're probably still going to go see it again as a family because that's just what we do. Anything.
I mean, just to piggyback on what you said, Renee, you did a perfect explanation, but this is a great event for family, for friends, for whoever. I mean, it hits so many different diasporas, and the fact we get to experience this in the theater with the popcorn, with other human beings. I mean, this is a cultural film. This isn't just American history. This is world history. It's not just Black history, right? It's all people history. Because like we said before, one person can affect everyone around them. So I think that's just the biggest thing, just to have fun, step out, experiencing it in this beautiful time that we get to just sit in the theater and just really enjoy history, be entertained by history, be informed and be inspired.
I love that. Well, listen, April 14th. Please, please, please go see Sweetwater, starring Everett Osbourne, former Hooper, but we're always a Hooper at heart. I thank you for joining me here on Montgomery & Co.